So effectively, I can form more and more portals within my being to manifest the choices and realities that I choose aligned to the Father's heart, or to engage two places that I have access to. And sometimes I've had access to them because I've been engaging with the Father and the Father's taken me somewhere. And then because I've done that, I now can choose to go back there, and I do that from within. So now I have a link to that place that I've been, but now I can activate that link and travel that thing. But it's instantaneous. It's not like I'm traveling some wormhole and, it takes me an hour to get there or something. I think I engage and I'm there.
I will say it's just been quite a journey that I've been on these past 6 years. And I think that surely this is the end of the peeling of the onion, of exposing the blockages and all the transformation that is necessary. But it's still in progress. I'm still a work in progress. And so just learning to go through the challenges of still being triggered in areas. Just assuming that's still my soul wanting to have its way. And so, but I know from all the other experiences that I've had that the journey's worth it. And coming into this place of intimacy and union and fellowship with the Father, it's just the greatest. And so I don't know that I have a question, but I just wanted to say that it can get pretty challenging, but I'm thankful that Father established his union and love for me, and that never changes, that I'm the one needing to change. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when we start off on the journey, probably we don't know we're on a journey to start with. I mean, he's the one who's sort of leading the direction it goes. And we sort of find ourselves moving forwards, but without really knowing where we're going. I mean, and I think if you did know where you were going exactly, you would try and get there your own way. So I think he deliberately doesn't actually tell us the destination, if there is a destination. Ultimately, I think the journey continues. But if he really told us what we'd have to go through, or we would probably find it quite difficult, but also we would probably try and navigate the journey ourselves. So it's a step-by-step, day-by-day journey, to which all we have to do is keep following him, pursuing him, for that relationship to be outworked and established. Then the sort of surprising nature of the journey, sometimes good and sometimes not so good, when we get a challenge or when things happen which cause us then to have to be transformed or changed by the journey itself, then we take it each step of the way. And there's certainly some milestones you probably can look back on that you couldn't see looking forward, but you certainly can look back and think that was a year, or that was a time, or that process there, or that opened up this door, or this really worked that way. So I feel that God knows exactly how to get us from one place to another in the way we need to get there. And if we tried to do it ourselves, we'd end up either going in a straight line towards something that would be too difficult to go straight, or we'd be zigzagging around all the obstacles to try and get there the easiest way, which is not necessarily always the shortest way. Some people like to get there quickly. Some people like to find the easiest route. God knows the best route, and learning to trust him on this journey is absolutely paramount. And I think that for me is what's happened over the years. I've learned to trust him, not need to know and have an explanation for everything he's doing. because that's another thing. I started off, I wanted to know what he was doing. I wanted to know where we were going. I wanted to know how we were going to get there. That was my nature. I'm curious. I want to find out things. I want to understand things. I want to share things with people. So having that information is quite useful when you're sharing. But actually, what I discovered was having that information gave me the security that I agreed with what was happening, but I understood what was happening, and therefore I felt safe because I still had a measure of control, because I agreed, because I knew. But then I think God wanted me to get to the point where, do you trust me when you don't know what's around the next bend, or this appears to be a dead end, and when you don't know, and when you don't understand, and you don't understand why this is happening, or why we've got to go this way, or why is it so hard at the moment? Sometimes it gets that way. And when you don't understand, then it's like, okay, do you trust me when you don't understand? And I had to get to the point of surrendering my need to know and to be in control by knowing to, I don't need to know. I trust you. You're in control. Therefore, I'm willing just to keep walking the journey out. Wherever it goes, I realize it must be the best. That must be the best route. It must be the best place to go, where we're going, how the journey is changing me, why I needed to go through a difficult point. I look back and think, yeah, I know why I needed to go through that situation. I know why that situation happened now. Because in hindsight, I'm looking from the place of being transformed by that situation, looking back and viewing it differently. If I knew going into 2011-12 what I was going to go through for 3 or 4 months, I would have probably thought twice about going there. But God almost got me to go there with a carrot rather than a stick. And the carrot really offered me something that never really actually came to fulfillment in that way. But actually, when I look back and say I would go through that 3 or 4 month period absolutely every time, because it totally changed my life at that point, opened up a whole realm of possibilities that I never knew existed, changed me beyond what I could have even imagined at the time, or even agreed to, because I wouldn't have been able to understand the process or the need for what was going to take place. But I learned to trust him. And I think when I've got to a point on the journey where it just seems like, where am I? Why am I here? What's going on? Why is this happening? That I don't even ask those questions anymore, because, okay, I trust you. Now, I first check it out. Am I here because you want me here? Or am I here because I've taken a wrong turn? Because sometimes we can still go off and do our own thing. And a couple of occasions where it's like, this seems really difficult. Am I in the right place? Have I gone off at a tangent? And it's like, no, you're in the right place. Then it's okay, I trust you. If I'm in the wrong place because I've gone off in the wrong direction, then bring me back to the right direction so I can get on back on the path. But it is an amazing journey. And it's a journey you couldn't have planned yourself. You couldn't have strategized for how all these things were going to take place, what changes. How did I know what I was going to need to be deconstructed of? Because you don't know, because you believe what you believe because you believe it. You don't know that what you believe isn't correct. I might have continually asked God to say, look, if there's anything I'm believing which isn't true, then please let me know, because that was my heart. But I didn't know. I didn't know the total measure of deconstruction that would need to take place for me to have my mind renewed, to know the truth of, hey, the restoration of all things, the whole thing about what happens after death, all of those things. I would have had no thought about deconstructing those areas myself, but he knew exactly what I needed. and therefore took me through the processes that would get me to that place, as long as I chose to trust him and go with it. And there are times when, it was like, I don't understand this, particularly going through the point of marriage breakup and wife leaving and all of that stuff. It was like, why? I didn't want this. It's like, why is this happening? I don't understand. This is why this is happening. How do I stop it happening? How do I change this? And all those questions that you ask. And looking back now and realizing, hey, God had something so much better for me than I was presently experiencing then. I wouldn't have chosen that route to get me there, but I trust that must have been the only way to do it. And I look back and think, that was hard. There was heartbreak, grief, sorrow, anger, all the emotions of going through that situation. But now the way I feel and the way I am, and in a sense, the person I've become was probably always there, but unable to ever be. I look and think, I'm so grateful for God's fathering me as a son to bring me into that place of favor and blessing. I couldn't have chosen that for myself, and I didn't choose it. Someone else chose it for me. Someone else chose that to end this relationship. I would have never ended it. But now I realize the joy in a new relationship, which wouldn't have been possible unless that happened, even though I didn't want that. But God knew his desire for me to be blessed and to be in a place of joy and peace and love and everything else was, beyond. And that journey, I could have never, ever perceived or thought that the journey would take that direction to get me where I am now. But God knows, and I've learned to trust him, even when I don't understand, and even when I am not aware. And sometimes I'm in a place of, how did I get here? Or how do I get out of here? But actually, I know God loves me, and he loves me in such a way. He's always going to want the best for me. And therefore, I've got to accept that in him working in a world which is not as he intended, with people not as he intended, he tries to bring good out of everything that happens. And I can look back in my life and say, even the things that have happened that I would have not chosen for myself, I thank him for bringing good out of those situations and using them to transform me, using them to change me, using them to bless me, and using definitely them to deconstruct my whole thinking, around so many different things and subjects over the years that I would have not even asked the question about those subjects, most of them. And now I realized what I believed about God, about various things, particularly in terms of theology, doctrine of the Bible, ways of doing and looking at things. Yeah, he knew what it would take to deconstruct my understanding and the experiences I needed to go through that. So it is an amazing journey, and he's an amazing dad who loves us in an amazing way. And it's not always easy, but I look back and I thank him for everything that he's done, and the path that I've taken, because along that path, there have been some amazing things that I've seen and experienced way beyond what I could have ever imagined for myself. Because how could I have chosen an experience that I didn't know existed? I couldn't. So I trusted that what he was doing was such a blessing in my life ultimately, and I continue to enjoy it, and to enjoy the fact that the journey doesn't end. It just takes you to different places in different ways, different experiences and different seasons, and who knows what is ahead. None of us know what is around the next corner, but what I can say is, if God is there, walking me to it, then it is going to be what is the best for me in my life. Yeah. So pretty amazing. He's an amazing God, isn't he, really? So.
Yes.
I would say ditto to all of that was shared. Ditto, 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 ditto.
So true.
Yeah, it's yeah, I just think of how wonderful God really is.
Yeah.
And how I didn't know him that way. You know, I didn't know him that way. You know, and he was wonderful the way I did know him. But then it's like he wanted to reveal himself in a way which was so further and beyond what I could have actually imagined in that way, which is such a good God. Okay, Robin, you got your hand up there.
Hi, Mike. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm going to ask a question kind of totally unrelated.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of something captivated me. I've been reading this book by Joshua Mills, and it's a book where he discusses many different types of portals.
Yeah.
And so I have a couple of questions for you. And for example, he mentions that portals exist with, the way he visualizes them is in the form of whirlwinds. And he says that to him, they look like bright whirlwinds. And he likens them to Ezekiel's vision of the Merkabah, specifically in relation to the Ophanim, the wheels within wheels of the chariot of God. And I'll just say I've experienced whirlwinds a number of times. And I've always thought of the whirlwinds as heavenly beings or angels who kind of go between the different dimensions. And so I'm kind of wondering, my thoughts are a little bit scattered here, so hang with me, but I'm kind of wondering your thoughts regarding this, particularly in relationship to what he also has to say when he goes on to describe, first in his book, he describes a number of different types of portals and how they interface with heavenly dimensions. And he then goes on to say, and this is what's important, he said that there are dimensions within the human body. And this part is what particularly intrigues me, because he talks about how these dimensions within the human body, he says that there are portals within the human body that exist as the 7 energy centers, otherwise called the chakras. But he goes on, obviously, to say not to be confused with the enemy's counterfeit interpretation of these energy centers. And importantly, I was reminded of something that Justin was teaching about, and it was a little confusing to me, I'll be honest with you, but he was saying that there were angels that were coming out from his physical body. He really kind of saw them coming out. And so I was wondering your thoughts about this, what that could be, if he's really making reference, to the different dimensions within the human body, if the angels kind of going in and out. Anyway, I just thought maybe you could add something to the discussion here, or to clarify this a little bit more, because I didn't get a chance to really ask him.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of portals, there's the form and there's the function. So a portal could be a gateway from one place to another. The portal could be an entrance to a different dimensional realm. A portal could be a entrance into a transport system that would take you somewhere else. So it's like a wormhole. The event horizon of a wormhole would be you enter in, which appears to be an energy gate. You enter in and then you are taken to another thing and you come out the other side. There's lots of different ways of viewing it. I've seen portals in the atmosphere over a place on Earth. Several places I've been, I've looked and think, wow, well, what is this? What am I perceiving here? A number of times. I think the first time I was in Seattle, in Federal Way, Seattle, Peacefield Pathways in this place. And I thought, wow, there's two big portals here. What are they? What is this about? And I certainly saw angels associated with them, because I saw there were angels around them or with them, in that sense. And then, I was in, where was I? In Moravian Falls, I think. And I was up this big mountain, which is a mountain that there were a number of prayer places that had been and various things. And again, I saw a number of portals there, certainly one big portal that was being contended for. Like, people were almost arguing over who owned this portal, or the right to use it, and all this stuff. And that was symbolic of what was going on in the area within groups of people who seemed to be in conflict over the mountain, because everyone wanted a piece of it. People had been there. Bob Jones had been there. Anna Rantry had been there. The people, all sorts of stuff going on. It was like, yeah, I can feel this in this atmosphere around this portal. There's contention here. So there are definitely things that connect into this physical realm, whether they're into the heavenly realms or whatever. I don't know. There are gateways, portals, north, south, east, west gate, which is sort of a dimensional connection to other dimensions and other sort of aspects of God. And I have no issue with any of that and the appearance of them. Sometimes they appear, like you're saying, swirling energies, gates of, whirlwind type things. Sometimes they appear to me more akin to a gateway or a door. For a particular reason. I think that's the thing. How I see something is related to how I need to relate to it, not necessarily to exactly what it looks like. And it might appear something different to someone else, but its function is the same. I still enter it and come out somewhere else, or enter into something through it.
So that would also include the human body, though?
Yes, because what I've discovered is, in the initial days of engaging heaven, I was viewing it as engaging through an open door, that God had opened a door, Jesus was that door, and we could enter through him. So you would step in and step out through that door, you would engage heaven, and some people would say you would be going up into the sort of a chute into heaven. They had different descriptions. Nancy Cohen used to call it, there's something chute or something. You'd be going into that, and people would have this sort of way of seeing it, perceiving it. There would be an entrance in, and that entrance in would take you into the heavenly realms. And I would enter in, like, the ladder, going Jacob's ladder, sort of the ladder or steps going up to heaven, and there was a door open, and you walk through the door. That door symbolically was reflecting Jesus being the doorway, and you'd enter in. And that I did, a lot in the early days, and I learned to go in and engage and experience things there. Then I discovered that I have doorways and dimensional sort of places within me. So I have my first love gate, which is, again, I have all the gateways of my spirit, soul, body, which are gateways. They're portals, if you like, that have purposes and functions and names within me. And I learned to engage my spirit gates and my soul gates and my body gates and cleanse them and function with them and all of that, which was great. But the first love gate, when I went into that first love gate, or I opened that first gate and invited Jesus into me, from within that place within me, the kingdom within me, where he dwelled, I had to give him that invitation. He wasn't going to force himself in me. I opened it every day and I welcomed him. But when I went back through that gateway, I went into the realms of heaven and found myself in Eden, the garden of God. So that was a portal within me. The first portal I found within me was me entering, and the river of life was flowing through that gateway, that portal, out of Eden in heaven, Father's garden, flowing down into me. And then as I opened the door, became rivers of living water flowing to my innermost being, going through the garden of my heart and into my being, that I sort of was learning about on my journey. Now, I didn't fully understand what my innermost being was. I assumed my innermost being must have been my spirit, because that's where I met with God and my first love gate was. But as I matured and as I realized that the Merkaba was not just a chariot, an external chariot that I could get into to take me into heaven, but actually was the point of the core of my being, where spirit, soul, and body, my innermost being connected, and there was in union, that then the river of life, the energy, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, the light, was almost sort of funneled into that place and concentrated into that place in the core of my being that was connected to the 7 energy gates. So energy came into me and then split into rivers, if you like, or flows of energy within me that were connected to those 7 energy gates. So I realized that that flow of life and energy could be activated in me to produce that energy within all those gateways within me, so that I could be functioning from heaven, because the top gate is the crown, which connects you to that realm. Then you've got different realms, the ability to see and perceive spiritually, all the way down to my heart, connecting my emotions with the Father's heart within, and then creation as the root, if you like. And each of them was my connection point, which could be seen as a sort of portal. But within the Merkaba itself, I discovered, when I learned to live in those 2 realms, dwelling in the realms of heaven in the spirit, living on earth with the soul, and sometimes interacting and going to where I was in both realms, I learned that I was in multiple places doing multiple things non-linearly and multidimensionally all the time. And those portals were within me, both for communication, so that what was happening where I am in heaven is communicated to me in the core of my being through this portal, or you could say wormhole, or whatever we're going to call it. Quantum entanglement is another way of putting it. I am in the core of my being, but I'm also in a dimensional realm. I'm also in heaven. I'm wherever I am. But all of them are centered within me, where my spirit, soul, and body are in union with Father, Son, and Spirit. And there's this core element to my being that I discovered enables me to travel, to receive communication, or to give communication. So my spirit and soul are in communication, and also to travel and be instantly where I am in multiple places. So you could say, if I'm in 8 different places, primarily doing multiple things, those are 8 portals within my being that are connecting me to who I am in those places. Then if I am operating in a multidimensional place, I can engage that multidimensional place from within me, because who I am gives me access to that place of what I'm doing in that place. So I can engage any of the places where I am being, and I can engage them by choice if I needed to. Now, most of the time I don't need to, so most of the time I don't. But I'm receiving communication constantly. I'm receiving a flow of revelation, illumination, enlightenment, truth, continually from wherever I am and wherever I'm engaged with the Father's heart, which I'm engaged face to face, heart to heart, mind to mind with the Father, in the realm of light, in the realm of perfection. I'm engaged there, and I dwell there, and I live there. That constantly is communicated and connected. So I can think, and I'm there, and I'm receiving from there all the time, because I am there. I'm not there in the soul, but I am there in the spirit, and I can be there in the soul whenever I choose. And that is the sort of portals or connections within my being, at the very core of my being, that means I am multidimensional. I don't have to go through an external portal into heaven. I am connected to all of those places, because that's who I am. Now, when it comes to things coming out of my being. It's whether that's a symbolic thing. Now, I know Justin and others are quite connected to sort of Hebrew thinking and Kabbalah and stuff. I'm not, and so I don't really go there with any of that stuff. But I know that Ian Clayton, for instance, believes that you can create demons and release them from your physical body by agreeing with the demonic in you. Now, I don't want to do that, so I don't go there or anything about it. Whether that's true or not, I know it's a Kabbalic thought. I know Justin says we can create energetic beings within us. And that might be what he's talking about, that energetic being. Then that could be just a desire that is formed in an energetic way that appears to be living. But then our desires are living. See, it depends how you view something. Is it an angelic being, or is it the manifestation of a desire that appears to be living because it is alive and forms a reality around us? I don't think we need to get too sort of embroiled in the semantics of whether it's an angel or an energetic creative thought that has life. I don't think it matters too much. But I do think we have the ability to create within us that manifests, and that living energy may appear to be light. It is light, and that might appear to be an angelic being. Now, whether it's an actual angelic being or whether it's just a living light expression of desire out of our heart with the Father, I don't really know exactly whether it is or not. But I would probably, for me, I don't particularly think of it as I am creating an angelic being, but I am creating a living light energy of my intention and thought that manifests reality, so it becomes real. If you sort of follow that thought. Now, ultimately, I have created angelic beings, guardian beings, but not within me. But when I was engaged in a realm that I was able to choose. I was in a council chamber and I was asked to create some beings for a particular guardian purpose, to guard portals, in fact. Some of the portals that are out in the constellations that are connected to dimensional realities. And all the constellations have portals that are connected to realities, and some of them are guarded, and some of them needed more guardians, and they asked me in this council of guardians to create some more. And I was a bit like, I'm not sure about that. Check it out with the Father. And he said, well, are you not creative? You know how to do this. You've created things before. And I thought, oh, yeah, I suppose I have. But I did. So I created these guardian beings, and then they were assigned to these purposes. So I know you can do that. Now, I didn't do that within me, but I did do it out of that desire to do what I was asked to do, which was within me. So did that guardian come out of me? Not in the way that I saw it coming out of my belly or whatever, but in reality, it came out of the desire that I came into agreement with within, and the energy was manifested from the 7 energy gates, or whichever combination of them needed to manifest that reality within me. So the thought manifested into a reality. So does it really matter too much? I think the danger is some people would actually think, oh, great, I need angels in me to come out of me. Well, I am not inviting angels into me. Yeah, I don't feel that that is something that I either need to do, want to do, or think I should do. The Father, Son, and Spirit are in me. You know, it's like I'm not going to invite any other being within me either, because I don't think that, for me, is something that God wants me to do. So I wouldn't go there and see it that way. But I would definitely see a manifestation of, within the core of my being, of the energy it requires to manifest a chosen reality, is definitely something that I do. And then I see it begin to manifest. But then there are dimensional places where I can do that. The chamber of creation, the cradle of life. There are places that the Father has shown me where I can engage, I can brood, I can begin to resonate with the Father's desires and thoughts, and I become the creative voice that light responds to, and the living light beings, quantum lumens, manifest a reality of creativity, whether it be a collapsing a wave function to form a form of reality around my life, or whether it be a manifestation of actually energy into form. Both can take place. And so all of that, you know, is portals that I have engaged with. So in one of my experiences of engaging those portals, you know, and behind me is a picture of a portal, and the other picture I have of a portal I went through, that blue portal that's got a speck of light in the middle of it, which is light coming from it, is what was shown to me as the chamber of creation, where the living light forms to the sound of my voice aligned to the Father's heart. And that forms in that place and is released as light to form reality. That's how I experienced that. And I know the living light in there is swirling and waiting for the direction to form a reality or to form something of substance within it. Some things are symbolic of what is happening, and some things are an expression of a reality that helps us to engage it. And for me, portals have been something that I've engaged with a lot. I've engaged with dimensional portals to go to other dimensions. I've engaged with the portals out in the cosmos, in the constellations, to engage there through into other dimensional realities. You know, I've engaged within different places to go to certain places that were portals. You know, I went into a portal within a pool within the Father's garden once and ended up in the eternal now. Now, I don't go there that way now, but that was my introduction into getting me into a place which was beyond my imagination to even contemplate. But now I have access within me to the eternal now, because when I engaged it there, that formed the connection within me to be able to engage within me by choice. So effectively, I can form more and more portals within my being to manifest the choices and realities that I choose aligned to the Father's heart, or to engage two places that I have access to. And sometimes I've had access to them because I've been engaging with the Father and the Father's taken me somewhere. And then because I've done that, I now can choose to go back there, and I do that from within. So now I have a link to that place that I've been, but now I can activate that link and travel that thing. But it's instantaneous. It's not like I'm traveling some wormhole and, you know, it takes me an hour to get there or something. I think, I engage, and I'm there because I'm entangled with that. My soul, in my choice of thinking about engaging something, is entangled with the reality of my spirit, which is there. And there is no time within that entanglement. There is instant connection. So what is happening there instantly affects what's happening here, communicated, and I can instantly be there if I choose to engage it. Does that sort of give?
Yeah, it does. There's a lot there, Mike. I'll have to review this video.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of pictures. I mean, that behind me is a whole load of angels who are swirling around a portal. See, people have drawn these pictures or made these pictures because they are probably some form of expression. You know, there's lots of different ways people have sort of, they're trying to create a picture of something. You know, each of these type of things for me are, you know, I found these pictures because I gravitated towards the pictures because they were experiences I had that I related to. When I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that feels like this. So I think, oh, that's a great picture. I'll use it as a background, you know. So yeah, the living beings or the living creatures or the Ophanim or the wheels within the wheels, or the chaos, the swirls and whirlwinds, living whirlwinds, they are created beings with a purpose and function that may be related to portals. I don't think they are necessarily a portal themselves, but they are associated with portals.
That's why I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, the
I was thinking that
energy
too.
of a portal may be related to a living being, or how to activate it may be through it, but I don't think the beings themselves are portals.
Yeah, that was
they may take you somewhere, hence the Merkaba being a chariot that takes you somewhere, a living whirlwind. Elijah went up into heaven in a whirlwind. Some people call that the Merkaba because that transported him from one place to another. But I think there are living beings, the order of the chaos, who are like that. I've seen beings that are golden ladders. I've seen beings that are fiery whirlwinds, and I've entered them and been transported. So the being wasn't the portal, but the being took me maybe through a portal or took me to a portal so I could access it and enter it. But I'm not saying that the gateway, let's say north, south, east, west gates that I've engaged a lot, they're living. I've engaged with them. So what are they? They're not an angel per se, but they seem to have a sentient function, and they're a gate or a portal. So from that perspective, I can engage with that gateway and I can feel and sense it and communicate with it. So it's living. So what is a living being? It's just, if you use the word angel, you tend to have a sort of picture of something which is probably slightly different from that. But ultimately, everything's living from that perspective. It's just a way of how you perceive that. But that gateway doesn't move. It doesn't have legs, and it didn't get up and move, but it is, I can engage it and I can communicate with it, and it is living.
The only thing I'm thinking here, a lot of people picture angels as humans, and I had an open eye vision of an angel that was like living light, if you know what I mean, which it looks like energy, obviously, because it was flashing like a big rectangle, I don't know, 6 feet high, I don't know, 4 feet wide, something like that. And there was a purpose for it, appearing, because it's a long story, but I was nearly crushed by my car en route to a conference. And then when I came back at the conference, there were these swirling whirlwinds in the conference. And then I came back home, and it's kind of almost embarrassing to say, but I was in this really tiny bathroom that we have. We have an old house. And so when I'm home, I had the door just slightly open, and then I realized, oh my God, there's an angel. And so I quickly ran out of the bathroom and stood in the light. And above my head, there was just this big whirlwind that just went around a big circle. And it was like a cold blast of wind. And I knew this was not a vision. It was an actual encounter in the room. And then I kind of put 2 and 2 together. It wasn't like a voice spoke to me, but I realized, oh, that was God telling me he had me protected, seriously protected, because I could have been crushed by this car. It rolled backwards, and they actually recalled the car for that problem a couple of years later, but I was too late. We had already sold the car,
Right.
And so anyway, but I'm just sort of thinking, that, in reference to what you just said, the one exception I would think would be like these lights, these angelic beings that appear as living light. I don't know. Maybe you have
in a sense, all at the very core fabric of creation, there is the smallest particles of existence, which scientifically, they're strings of energy or donuts of energy. That's what they're seen as, but they're living light. We named them, Nancy named them when we were engaging them once, living quantum lumens, and they are living light beings. God described them as grace, the divine enabling power of God, just different ways of describing the same thing to give you a different perspective on it. When I engaged the quantum lumens, they were waiting for something to manifest into. So an angel, if you think of God being spirit, God being light, God being love, then light, love, and spirit are the same material. And so you could call that living energy. You could call that the substance of who God really is. So an angel that is a spiritual being can manifest, because it's made out of living light, let's say, can manifest in any form. Hence sometimes angels manifest as human beings and you wouldn't know that there are. And there are all sorts of stories of people having hitchhikers that they picked up and then they disappeared from their car and things like that. So you have stories of manifestation. So my spirit, which is living light, can manifest in physical form like my physical body to people, and has done. So ultimately, an angel could just appear as light, or they could appear in a form that would have a different connotation to you. And at one time, that living light is what you need to connect to, or I guess experience. And other times, maybe a human personality to that light makes it helpful to talk to an angel, if you like, because it has a familiar form.
Right.
Rather than an unfamiliar one. And initially, if someone was going to have this ball of light, they might struggle to engage it if they weren't familiar with that idea. But if there was an angel with some sort of wings appeared, then they would probably be more comfortable with talking to that because they have precedent for it. So I think they can manifest in different ways.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you. Yeah, I have another question, but I don't want to take over the floor here. So I'll just save that, honestly, for next time. I have a question about chariot ride. I had, actually, how many years ago? Maybe it was 3 years ago. I had this experience of, it was a chariot ride. I'll just put it that way. And it was just unbelievable. I was just like, there aren't words to describe this, right? So I'm like shooting through the heavens, and I had that expectation that I was going to arrive in the throne room, and it was almost felt, because I was in bed, I'm lying flat on my back, and it almost felt like I was in almost like a rocket, if you know what I mean. And so I couldn't see really clearly, but I did see all these planets just whizzing by, and it was unbelievable speed. And then all of a sudden, things started to hit the container that I was in, the Merkaba, or whatever you want to call it, the chariot. And, I sensed there were angels there, but yet things are hitting that chamber. And all of a sudden, I got this, what could that be? Is that like demonic, stuff coming against this chamber? And I just got so scared all of a sudden that the whole thing stopped. And, it's like, okay, I repent from this, this fear, but I've never managed, honestly, to kind of push past it. I'm like, okay, I really wanted to fully experience that again, but it's just, and I know, I tried a court case or two, and it just didn't seem to be working for me. I don't know if you have any suggestions.
Again, sometimes an experience that we have is symbolic of a meaning, and finding the meaning is the key, not the actual experience itself per se. So when I have an experience and I'm a bit sort of, I don't know what's happening, why is this happening, what is this about? Generally, if fear comes, well, fear is not coming from God, but fear can be a product of our soul and the insecurity we feel when we don't know what's going on.
Right.
Which actually sometimes can be the reason we have those experiences, because they show us that our soul is not in the place of trust in God and security in our identity to be able to deal with whatever we face, which is an indication, hey, we need to do some more work, or something needs to change, or I need to be transformed in this area. So the experience highlighted an issue that then the issue can be dealt with. And that was the purpose of the experience, just to highlight things aren't quite here how you think. What, you got afraid. So why did you get afraid? So rather than question what was the experience, actually, why was the experience? What did produce the fear?
Right.
So the fear was the issue that the experience brought up to the surface. Then you deal with the fear and why you were fearful in the first place. The experience may not have been for any other reason other than to show you that there was some fear lurking that you might need to deal with. That's just one way of looking at it. Now, there are other ways of looking at it, in that sometimes the experience itself does challenge our soul, and the experience is something that we do need to engage and relate to, but we can't because our soul limits what we're willing to go into. And again, that's just showing, hey, there might be a limitation here that I'm placing on myself because either I don't understand or this is outside of my comfort zone. So again, it's like, okay, why did I react the way I did?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think back when I had this, when I was a little kid, maybe 8 or 9 years of age. I wasn't thinking about chariot rides at all. I was raised a Roman Catholic, so this was way off the page. And I'm in the backyard. I'm laying on the chaise lounge, and my spirit started to go up into the planetary zone. And all of a sudden I got frightened and it just completely ended. And then, the other thing that pops into my mind, and I realized after I had that experience, I said to myself, oh my goodness, this is exactly what happened to Patricia King. Because I remembered hearing her talk about her first ever chariot ride.
Right.
And she said right off the top, she was not a happy camper. She was, I think, in a grumpy mood. And then she was in this chariot ride, and all these things started and made it very, very bumpy ride for her. And then I don't remember everything now that she said and how she came out of it. I don't remember if she said there was fear or what. But I do remember that. And I thought, my goodness, that was quite like I had. But for me, just the thought that, could there be demonic interference here that's coming against, that capsule or whatever it was that I was in, the chariot.
I would probably say probably not. It's probably more about the limitations or blockages within your own soul.
Okay.
Rather than, because if you're engaging in something, in a realm, there aren't any demons in a realm. There are no demons in the heavenly realms. They operate on earth. They sometimes operate against us, but not in that realm. There may be fallen angelic beings that sometimes interact with us, and sometimes there may be dimensional beings that interact with us.
Well, I was kind of
there's
thinking
always
more
a possibility of a dimensional being. If you're engaging and going into a dimensional portal, to do something, there may be some desire to stop you or interfere with you. So that's a possibility.
That's what I was kind of thinking, more than demons on earth, kind of in the I'll just call it what is often called the second heaven by a lot of people, that there was some interference there. And that's what kind of
well, if that's where you were, but it doesn't sound like that's where you were. It sounded like you were gone beyond that. That's really just the atmosphere of the earth where there are principalities and powers and rulers. Now, I don't ever go into that realm from within me, because I don't have to go from A to B to get to C. I have a direct route to C. so I'm never going through that realm. That's the sort of the view of, well, we have to go through that realm to get to the third heaven realm. You don't. So I don't ever engage that realm other than from the earth shield above and looking at and seeing if there's anything going on in the atmosphere that I need to be aware of. I don't go through that realm because I don't need to. But there may be, when you're engaging a dimensional portal, there can be activity around that portal that can be and feel intimidating, and it can be designed to stop you engaging it. Again, some of that depends on what the experience was going to become before you bailed out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can just ask the Father, hey, if this was something somewhere you want me to go, then I'm sorry, please, can you take me there again?
Mm-hmm.
If the experience is what I was supposed to have because it highlighted something, then great. What is the highlighting for? And then you can engage around sort of, why did I have that experience and what is it supposed to produce in me as change or transformation in my life? So, yeah. All right.
I wanted to say something. I've been listening to this doctor, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, Mike. His name is Gabor Mate, and he's a medical doctor. He's 76 years old now. And he's really gotten into childhood trauma, and he's relating traumas back to different diseases that manifest in our body. And he's saying that a lot of who we are and what we've experienced goes back to childhood. Mm-hmm. That's when it, so he's relating a lot of things back to childhood. So when Robin said that, I thought it was interesting that she went back into a childhood memory of fear. Mm-hmm. And I would agree with you, Mike, that that's what was resonating with me, is Father's highlighting that fear that's blocking her from where he's wanting to take her. He's probably wanting to take her many, many places, but that fear that was she opened up to at age 9 or 10, whichever she said. And so if I would have listened to this doctor probably 5 years ago, I would have been like, what is he talking about? But where Father has prepared me, I feel like I'm totally resonating where he's at. And even yesterday I went back into my mother's womb, and I've heard Ian talk about taking the different ages of your life and going back through them. And I've done it, but it was more of okay, this is probably a good thing to do. But as I did it yesterday, and I just really did it with Father, and went back into my mother's womb, I began feeling the different emotions that, was attached to me in the womb. And I began releasing them as Father, brought different ones to my attention. And that's what this doctor's saying, is that a lot of our traumatic experiences as a child, even the traumas and things going on in our parents, became a part of us. And this has been my journey. Father's showing me the reasons why I'm doing things. And you think it's because of this present thing that's happening, but no, it goes back into a childhood memory, a trauma, something that, or even generational.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think sometimes we need something to highlight that those things are there. And sometimes encounters are designed to highlight what's there, so then we can go back and get it dealt with. And and I think you just got to discern each time whether that's the case or whether the experience is something in itself that you need to go back to. Each may be different, and I think just discerning each time why this happened by talking to the Father around it is the key, and then allowing the experience to fulfill what its purpose was will always then bring about the Father's desire and heart in our lives, which is where we're going with it all. It's not an end in itself. It's something which develops and enables us to be who he calls us to be in relationship as a son of God. If you enjoy these videos, would you please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe? It really does help. Thank you very much.